So continuing along in our Lexington Historical Society month of November, I am here with Sarah, and she's going to tell you all about what she does and hopefully about the house that we're lucky enough to be sitting in.
Sure.
So, hi.
Hi.
So tell me, what do you do? What's your title? All that good stuff.
Sure. So I am the programs manager here at the Historical Society. So I help Anne, who you just spoke with, to organize our events calendar for the year, and with Chris as well, our education manager, to do programming for preschoolers all the way up through however old you decide to live.
Nice.
And everything in between. Fundraisers, educational programs, lectures, pretty much anything that takes place outside of regular house tours, I have a hand in, and occasionally filling in here as well when necessary.
Oh, nice. So what would that entail? I mean, do you have some like regular stuff, like lectures and stuff that you always are providing?
Yeah, so there are a few things that you can always count on. We do programming for Patriots Day, of course, every year. We have regular book club that meets 5 times every year. And that has been particularly exciting over the past couple of years as we had to pivot very quickly to online learning over the past year. But that means that we've been able to invite more authors than we've had ever before. So while we always have members of the book group helping to lead the discussion, recently we've had the authors zooming in, even when they're not local, which has been incredibly useful and wonderful to facilitate that discussion.
Nice. So, like, what kind of books are we talking about? Probably
So
not like the last bestseller.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what you would consider to be a bestseller, but it's history nonfiction.
Okay.
Obviously, we want to work in conjunction with the library and not compete. So we do tend to focus on recently published books.
Okay.
But we like to vary it, and we sort of move through history over the course of the year, starting with the earliest time period and then moving through more modern history. So this year we're beginning in the early 19th century. We just had a book group recently about the generation of politicians that came after the Founding Fathers, and then we're going to end up with a couple of books about World War II this year.
Oh, nice. So what other programming excites you?
Well, for next year, we're in the process of really expanding our programs, mainly to go through more time periods than people might be accustomed to. Of course, our houses are somewhat static in time. We have 3 colonial buildings that tell the story of one day in history, April 19th, 1775. But Lexington's history is so much more rich and varied than that. And so we're planning a wide variety of programs throughout town and world history to look at the 19th century. We've done mid-century modern activities. We're also going to be planning more regular programming in the houses for families in particular on weekends.
Yeah.
Buckman Tavern this winter is going to be open on weekends, so we'll be having drop-in programming for kids at that time.
Nice.
And so we're very excited to expand. We'll also be doing more in the coming months for members.
Okay, nice. And do you feel like the people that come, well, obviously book club is probably fairly local, but your visitors to these houses, I mean, how do they sort of pan out? Who are they?
So our visitors to the museums are from all over the world. I've spoken to people from everywhere from next door to Tasmania. It's really incredible how Lexington history has affected people the world over. But in terms of our drop-in programs or paid programs, we do get people from all over the local area. We get a lot of folks from Woburn and Arlington and Concord, and so we do try and market to the local community. We're in a very dense history-related area here. We squeeze a lot of historical importance into a small geographic area. And so folks in this general location are really interested in what happened here.
What's your favorite event?
I think my favorite event generally is the tea burning, which we have every December. So that takes place on the anniversary of the Lexington Tea Party, which was just a couple of days before the Boston Tea Party.
Oh.
So December 13th of 1773. We're getting ready for the 250th anniversary of that in just a couple of years. But that is an annual event, which we are excited to have begun the planning process for this year. Because it is an outdoor event, it's safe, it's fun, and it's something interesting to do in the winter, which we're trying to expand this year to give folks something to do in those dark months. So we'll have a bonfire, everyone gets to throw their tea into it and curse King George, and to have some other activities to do. And that's a really fun collaborative event. As Anne was telling you, we're really trying to reach out to other organizations in town and work collectively to bring our shared history to the public. So the Minutemen reenactment group is involved with that, the town and the visitor center is involved, and it's a really fun collaborative project.
Nice. So can you tell me a little bit about this house?
Sure. So
It's
this
a really
is
cool kitchen.
yeah. This is the first house that I ever gave a tour in.
Okay.
So I've been giving tours here for 12 years now.
Really?
Which doesn't seem like very long in retrospect. But it's a wonderful story that takes place in here of Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. So this location was actually the destination of Paul Revere when he set out from Boston on April 18th. John Hancock and Sam Adams were staying here that evening, and everyone was incredibly concerned that two of the most important Patriot leaders were going to be arrested, kidnapped, abused in some way by the British soldiers. And so up until now in this house, we have been really giving the story of what happened specifically on April 18th and 19th in this house, and sort of what it was like for the family on that evening. And then going forward, we're actually in the middle of a project to uncover the history of slavery in Lexington, which is actually focusing on this house as a site of enslavement that people aren't generally aware of. The original owner, Reverend John Hancock, who was the grandfather of the John Hancock of the signature, did enslave two people in this house. And so we will be reinterpreting our tour to also focus on their story. They were people, and they were here and integral to the history of Lexington, to this country. And so we'll be exploring the themes of liberty and what that actually meant for some of these different generations and classes of people that lived in this house.
Interesting. That's an interesting story. So how did you decide this was going to be your life's work?
Well, I had family living in Lexington growing up, so
Okay.
I did not actually grow up here at all, but I spent quite a few years of my childhood visiting my cousin who grew up here, and so one of my first playgrounds was the old burying ground behind First Parish Church.
Wow.
We used to go do scavenger hunts out there, and I can still very clearly remember as a child, before the cemetery was cleaned up, seeing Reverend Hancock's gravestone and thinking, as a 5-year-old, I have heard this name somewhere before. I know he's important. Why is he in my cousin's backyard? And so as I got older, I really wanted to uncover more of that history, knowing that these museums were here. And so as I grew, I made it a point to visit each of the museums, and by the time I got to the last one, I was in college and realized I could ask for a job at the end of the tour.
Wow.
And the rest is history.
Nice. Wow. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank
This was
you.
awesome.